The entire problem or ignorance or suffering is caused by the identification with an object. That object becomes the subject. I become the subject. I don't say the stress is different from me. I say I am in stress. I am suffering. I have a pain. So when I become the object and I treat it, this is I am is all about ignorance. This is one of the highest teachings. But how to go about this teaching? The Master says we have to understand through the metaphor. And that metaphor we have been talking, possibly from the next session, I will help you recollect. I will help you recollect the basics of it. So, metaphor helps us to understand. We don't talk about the blind faith. We don't say have a faith in the tradition. Then what we say? We simply say shift your attention. Shift your attention from the object to a subject. Don't you believe your doctor, your primary doctor, gives you the prescription medication? You have not researched. You don't know the composition and still you have faith. We don't talk about that you have a blind faith in us and then only you will run. If any teacher says in this Eastern wisdom, it is better to leave that teacher. Otherwise, you'll be caught in blind faith. You'll have a lot of problems. Come back to the topic. So we have a metaphor to you are shifting your attention. You see through the metaphor. So the first part of the metaphor, we say there is an endless space that contains all the galaxies in the universe, no limit, boundaries to this space. That pervasive space that exists both within and without all manifestations is my nature, is the nature of the consciousness. So what it means? Any object that is present in that space is not me. Body is present in that space, mind is present, intellect is present, ego is present, thoughts is present, emotions are present. Is not me. You have to repeat this 1,000,000 times. Then you'll be realized. Oh, no, I have understood it. You have understood, and the next moment you have a stress and you identify with it. It doesn't work that way. That is why it is one of the highest teaching. So then look at the night sky stretches endlessly above the earth, containing all the stars and the galaxies. Our planet appears as a tiny dot against the infinite space. So all these objects which we make it so big appears as a tiny dot. Problem is that our reverence, our faith is in the object. And that is the cause of the ignorance. The space has no boundaries. Consciousness has no boundaries. The, the, the same room or same house surrounds the happy family and a stressed family. So the joy and the sorrow appear contained within unchanged space, but the space is not affected. I'm talking about only the first part of the metaphor. That is the nature of our consciousness. That is what we have to recognize, realize, and once we realize the ignorance is gone, we start living into that state of what we say, nirvana or whatever you want to say. But then the second metaphor returns. Second metaphor, say the enclosed space within the pot. Pot is this body, mind, intellect, ego, stress, suffering, pleasure, dualities, married, unmarried, single, whatever, divorce, etc. It's a long list. This is the enclosed space. This is how we have to understand. I have yet to get married. What is your age? I'm 50. I'm getting obsessed with it. So that obsession is an object. The moment that object becomes the subject, I become the that object, I become the object, and the problem starts. The emptiness inside the pot could not contain the vast sky, only what the walls allow. But the space inside the pot in the infinite space is only one, it cannot be divided. So what happens? I'm giving another examples, lot of examples, so that you can understand. A compressed gas inside a vessel creates a pressure, while outside there is an equilibrium. Outside there is no problem. It is the same space. So what is that compressed gas inside the vessel creates a pressure? I am the body. I have a lot of pain. I have a lot of suffering. We glorify ourselves. We glorify our suffering. That is the problem. Why? What is the problem? I objectified it. I objectified myself. There is no reason to be objectified. Identifying with the body compresses our natural openness. I am not able to recognize that I am that consciousness, my friend. But then the problem becomes deeper. So there is an enclosed space, and you put the water. The space does not change. Now it is known as a vessel of water or a jar of water. The reflection makes the space seems limited. That reflection is the mind. The space reflected in the surface of the mind, which creates the appearance of the thoughts, emotions, memories occupying that space. Are you getting it? That is why I said, from the next week I'll start with, again, I will return to the basics. In a couple of the sessions, I'll make it clear. So the water space is a reflected space in the pot is nothing but the mind, which creates the appearance of the thoughts, emotions, memories occupying that space. But space is space. It is still empty. I objectified it. So I'm in stress, I'm divorced, I'm married, I will remarry, I have no job, I have job, I have a lot of problem. I found couple of solutions. Unless I married, I will not have any solution. I will not be happy. And a long list of the thought. This is everything is reflected. This is just the water in the space. Do I have that level of awareness to recognize that? I recognize, I do not objectify. I'm already into that state of joy, peace, and happiness. But no, the fourth metaphor also comes. In that water space, I perceive the entire world. Look at this couple, how happy they are. I divorced and I'm unhappy. you have created further problems to yourself. You have objectified yourself. That objectification is basically creates all the problems in life. So that is why this master says we have four. You see the consciousness exists at the all-pervading one consciousness at the individual self, at through the reflected mind, and ultimately we see this world. That is the four. So out of the four, the two are caused, two are elusive, and the two are essentially one. That is the journey we have been undertaking. So once we understand that clearly, so I discussed in the last couple of the sessions that understand the subject and the object clearly. What is subject and object? It has been given different names. Where is the subject? Different names. Subject is the knower, subject is the observer, subject is the witness consciousness, object is the known, or object is the seen. What is the difference between the subject and the object? Or if you are picking up knower and the known, first thing to understand, the knower is always separate from the known. They cannot come together. I know you, so you are known. Known is always separate from the knower. I see the ass, donkey. I know the donkey. I do not become donkey. Why? Donkey is separate from me. So, but when I say I am crazy, what happened to you? I objectified myself. There is no craziness in me. That craziness is known. Craziness is object. I am the subject. I am recognizing it. I am an observer. I am a knower. Now I have understood it. Now I am awakened. That is another. You have created, I am awakened as a known. So you are not awakened. If you can understand this point, you are not awakened. Socrates said, those who claim I am awakened, they are still sleeping. Now I'm awakened. That is why I have a lot of stress. I am awakened. That is why I am sitting on a Times Square to prove that I am awakened. It will not work. Are you getting it? I objectified again. So I need that level of awareness where all the objectifications are dropped by understanding. And once you understand, what is left? Only one consciousness, which is all pervading. That is known as awakening. That is known as the nirvana. So I took a diversion to make you understand what is that diversion, that there is a subject and object, there is a knower and the known, there is an observer and observed. They are always separate. They have to be separate. If you mix them, you have a problem. You are living in ignorance. That mixing up is known as the identification. Clear? Say yes. I am clear. So once we are clear that the knower, now I'm using the word knower, is different from the known. Or you can say subject is different from the object. Then ask yourself, Where is the consciousness and where is no consciousness? So when I say that there is a knower, that knower has to be consciousness and the known has to be inert. What do you mean? I know you, so you are inert, you are known? Yes, you see my body, you don't know me. Come on. We need that level of awareness. You can rationalize, but you cannot put the right reasoning. I say, I know Stephen. What it means? I have already objectified Stephen. Now the Stephen is an object for me. And any object for me is inert. It does not mean that I see the movement and then only I say that that object is conscious. So it means atom is also conscious. Fan is also conscious then, if I see the movement. We don't go by the definition of the science. I have objectified. Are you getting it? Say yes. Why I say that inertness? Consciousness is, that is the first process. Why I say that? Think, contemplate and reflect. You have to be just aware. Because I say I know Stephen through my mind. I don't say it through my consciousness. The consciousness is present behind. Are you getting it? Consciousness is behind. That is reflected in the mind, and that mind recognizes that I and the Stephen are different. So that is the first stage of realization. Because I have objectified, hence whatever I objectify is the known, is an object. It cannot be the subject. Once I reach to that consciousness, then I say I and Stephen are one. Not before that. In the presence of this light at this time, I see the computer screen, I see you are. So that light is not identified. Light is totally independent. In the presence of the light, I say, here I am having a group session. In the presence of that consciousness, these thoughts are coming. I recognize Stephen, so I say, here is the Stephen, here is the Dennis, and here is. Are you getting it? So what happened? I did not objectify it. So when I don't objectify, what happens? I recognize not what the mind knows as an object, but also the mind as an object. Finished. I'm there. Sam has understood it. Only Sam. That is the journey of awakening. What is that awakening? I am awakened to that consciousness, that light, which is reflected in the mind. It has become one object, and the one object is recognizing the other object. I know Stephen, I know Dennis, but that consciousness, that nothing happens to that consciousness. It remains independent. It is independent. How? Like light. I throw out all the items from my room. Light is still there. Nothing happens to the light. I put a lot of items into this room. Nothing happens to the light. That is the nature of the consciousness. That consciousness is I am. whether your body is suffering or not, it hardly makes any difference. Whether your mind says, I have a stress, no stress, it doesn't make any difference. Nothing, no difference. You cannot make any difference into the light. Light is shining to every object alike. No, my computer is shining, but the hard surface is not shining. It depends on the object. It does not depend on the light. It does not depend on the consciousness. No, I have a lot of stress. No, it does not depend on your stress. Consciousness is independent. I am consciousness. I am consciousness. So that is why we have been discussing that the moment we objectify ourselves, that objectification is known as the identification. Identification, but by mistake, I claim object as a subject. What is that? That is ignorance. What happens to the ignorance? Ignorance causes the suffering. That is why we say ignorance of our true nature as consciousness. I'm just expanding it. So ignorance of our true nature as consciousness is lost when I objectify myself. I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect, I am the ego, I am married, I am divorced, I am unhappy because I am married. And after a few months, we say I am unhappy because I am married. Consciousness, nothing happens to the consciousness. Nothing happens to it. Because I have a sense of dissatisfaction, because now I am unhappy because I am unmarried. So what the mind will do? Mind will start searching the partner. I did not find the partner. Here in New Jersey, when I was there, so I found one woman and who used to come to my house for sessions. She said, get me anyone, whom I can marry. I said, that is not my profession. My profession to help you understand. Get me anyone. The second session, I said, at least, I'm not eligible. There was a small house and I see, you see that, that lady is sitting there. What I'm trying to point out, you see that I objectify myself. And when I objectify myself, it causes the problem. So there is a confusing capabilities of consciousness as that of objects. Our bodies and the minds are animated by consciousness. Body is animated by the consciousness. Mind is animated by the consciousness, but the consciousness is independent. Animated. Do you see? Animated. I'm talking larynx and skin, but consciousness is independent. We wrongly attribute their abilities like thinking, observing, acting on them rather than the consciousness powering them. Consciousness is empowering. Light is empowering. Light is empowering. I know the wall and the computer and you all and talking and audio recording is taking place. Do you see that? Talking is taking place. All are objective manifestation. I mix up consciousness with a reflected mind, reflected consciousness. That is the problem. That is the ignorance. That is causing this. No, I'm the body. I have a lot of problem. I meditated, I was empty, but then mind disturbed me. You have still objectified it. I need an extraordinary awareness to remain independent. Knower is consciousness. Simple. Knower cannot be the body, mind, intellect, ego. If the knower is the mind, say for example, just for a moment, claim that knower is the mind, then this mind will never have the changes in the mood, and it does not have a swinging mood. It will never enter into the stress. Mind is the knower. Mind is not the knower. Are you getting it? Mind knows some information is there. I'm in stress. I have a problem. My mind is object. Stress is object. So I mixed up that consciousness there. What is required when there is a mixing? Do you remember? Which power of the intellect we should use? That is discernment, known as the viveka. Viveka and vairagya, dispassion. Not judgmental. We use the power of discernment. What is discernment? To separate. To separate what? To separate what is mixed up. I'm reminding you. So our master explained, a very early masters, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. I don't want to speak this very typical Sanskrit, but let me give you an example of that. So they say you have to separate. There is a mixture. So there is a mixture of rice, which is white in color, and the black beans. How you separate? Knowledge is there. So what is that knowledge? You know the properties of rice and you know the properties of physical properties of the black bean and physical properties of the rice. They are white in color, small, and then you separate. That is how we recognize it. So first is the recognition, right? And second is the separation. A very crude example of discernment. Now the water is mixed with the milk. So it's a complex process. Right? So now this is again a metaphor. Understand, metaphor is very near to explaining the principle and the concept. They are not one. Why they are not? Why I said so? You have to question everything. I said so that when you separate the false from the real, you realize that the false do not exist. What is left? You are the real self. What is that real self? You are the consciousness. So here there is not, it's exactly near when I explain two physical examples of separation. The rice is separated from the black beans, the water is separated from the milk. So what is the near? Because they have the two entities. But when I separate the false from the real, I recognize the false does not exist. Here the false is not like the water you separated from the milk or the black beans separated from the rice. That is the power of discernment I have, and where I have to do it inside my head. I have to do it in my mind. You cannot do it separate. You cannot do it physically outside. Oh, let me separate my body from the mind. Now, people raise some objections to this teaching. They don't know what they are doing. They're rationalizing it. So I have to separate. You are in stress. Unconsciously, you have separated yourself from the stress in deep sleep. Tell me. So I'm saying you separate yourself from your anxiety. You are not anxiety. You're not in stress. You're not married. You're not divorced. Don't tell your honey, otherwise they'll be unhappy. If you are married and if you tell honey, then internally, consciousness cannot be married. Consciousness cannot divorce. So when I objectify, there comes the problem. Go back. Known, knower. Observer, observed. Identification with the changing continues. So I have mixed up. What I have mixed up, I am the body mixing. I am the mind mixing. Not only this, I am the body, and then I have a lot of problem in the body. No, I'm taking medication. You see the chain reaction of objectification with pertaining to the word I. So this not only this I becomes the body is body gender, then the body problem, then the body is suffering, and I continue the journey in ignorance, and I cannot recognize I am the pure consciousness. This is what we have been understanding in the last couple of the sessions, that attachment to the external appearance, attachment, that is what we say. Objectification is also the attachment. Obsession is an objectification. Pleasure seeking, joy of attachment, joy of pleasure of indulgence, they all are. That is why we say you have to learn the basics to become a seeker. So now you know what is attachment and detachment, what is discernment and dispassion, and then you start the journey. You are a seeker, so you will never forget your true nature. Where is true nature? I am consciousness. Want to go deeper? Thinking I am this body rather than awareness perceiving the body. Are you getting it? Modern psychology doesn't stand anywhere here. Thinking I am this body rather than awareness perceiving the body. I know the mouse rather than in the presence of the light, this shape is reflected, which is known as the mouse. There's a big difference. So I have to do the discernment inside my head. And when you do the discernment inside your head, how dare a single thought can enter into your mind? It's not a control. Live into that extraordinary awareness where thought has no place to enter. You're that consciousness. Light is not mixing up with the mouse, but light has or it is pervasive in the entire mouse. It pervades. Why I say it is pervades everywhere in the mouse? Because if it does not pervade everywhere in the mouse, it cannot find the boundary. It cannot separate from the other objects. I cannot recognize the mouse. Consciousness is all pervading in every cell of the body, outside and inside, and that creates a delusion that I'm the body. Now I'm moving my hand. Do you see that? No, without consciousness you cannot move. Forget about it. No chance. Thinking, my brain thinks rather than consciousness being aware of thoughts. Do you see that? So we have to shift this mind, understanding of the mind. Believing I am my thoughts and emotions, that belief is a blind belief, rather than the consciousness aware of thoughts and emotions. Consciousness is aware of the thought of the stress. Can you enter into stress anytime? What I'm saying, did you get it? Conscious light is aware of the mouse. So does the light will go into stress? Oh, light is aware of the small room. Light is aware of the big room. Does the light go into the stress? No. Consciousness is aware of the thought of a stress in the mind. You don't have a stress. You don't have a stress. You are not into anxiety. Are you getting it? See that? Our masters, they are the craziest people. Thinking, my brain thinks, rather than consciousness being aware of the thoughts. What a great understanding. Feeling I am depressed if mood is low, rather than awareness of the mood. Awareness is the knower, mood is the object. They both are separate. I told you, I see the donkey. It does not mean I am the donkey. But I see the stress in my head, and then I have a lot of stress. With reference to the donkey, you have separated, and with reference to the stress, you have mixed up. So I have to move from the ignorance to the wisdom. I seek Terry does not mean that I have become Terry. I see the stress in my head. It does not mean that I become the stress, but I become the stress. That is the problem. It means, I see the Miss Universe, I become the Miss Universe. Now I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. That is the problem we are facing with the mind. That is why we say ignorance. Wanting to prolong a pleasant sight and the sound and the feeling after I objectify myself. I claim that I get a pleasure in eating this, I get a pleasure in the sex, I get a pleasure in any activity. It says there is no pleasure outside. Pleasure, happiness is there inside the consciousness. I forgot my nature. I'm living in ignorance. Are you getting it? Where is the problem? Where is the suffering? What the Buddha said, the Four Noble Truths. First, he started with world is suffering. There is a cause of the suffering. Cause of the suffering is ignorance. The third point he said, there is a devoid of the suffering. Oh, I recognize there is a devoid of the suffering in that subject. There is only one subject, one knower, one consciousness. Fourth, there is a way. Out of the Four Noble Truths, he created Eightfold Noble Path. I do Buddhist meditation. I do compassion meditation. Can you practice compassion? Unnecessary. Forgetting our true nature, consciousness, ignorance of our true nature as consciousness. We identify ourselves with the changing entities rather than the changeless subject. I know Kristen. I know Dennis. I know Stephen. I know Terry. I know Webb. I know Sam. What is the common factor? I. Now that real I is lost because of ego and because of the mind, because I start perceiving Christina perception plus projection. Dennis perception plus projection. Vaibhav perception plus projection. Remove that projection. Projection means objectivity. So I don't become object. You all are one for me. You all are same for me. Where is the difference? That is why the initial preparations are required. Master says you have to qualify yourself to become a seeker. If you don't become a seeker, if you don't understand, if you don't know how to define what is false and what is real, how to understand what is discernment, what is attachment, so you have only one facet. You are obsessed, then you are obsessed. That is why we need a preparation. We need to become a seeker. That is why we need to listen and learn from a teacher regularly. Why? Because when you are reading and studying and reflecting, who knows when you get obsessed and when you forget? No, that is why out of the joke I say, no, I lived with my master for 26 years. Yes, answer is fact. It is fact. By learning, constant learning and listening, and ultimately you live into that state of awareness. The intrinsic nature of the consciousness is simple presence. Intrinsic nature of this light is just presence. Clear? Where I'm taking you. Intrinsic nature of the consciousness is just the presence. But the intrinsic nature of this crazy mind is to externalize. That is the problem. That mind is like a small piece of a glass. So when light is there, the small piece of the glass is here and it is reflecting the light outside the room. Did you understand? That is the nature of the mind. Externalize. So from where it has to externalize, from the body, sense organ, mind, intellect, how it has to externalize from the thought, how it has to externalize from the experiences. What is your experience? I am in stress. I don't want to listen to you. You have already externalized. That is the nature of this journey. By understanding, when we understand clearly, when you understand here is the neighbor's house and here is my house, you always brand that as a neighbor's house. Come what may. You always brand false as a false. At present, we are not able to brand false as a false, but false as a real. What is false as a real? I am in stress. Yes, I recognize you are in stress. I could see your face. Where is the stress? See that? That is the journey. That is the beautiful journey of this. That's why he left modern psychology. That is why our master gives the most famous example, believing the rope to be a snake in the dim light. Dim light means the ignorance. In low awareness. What is low awareness? I'm attached. I have objectified myself. I start my journey, I have a lot of stress in the body. For example, I start my journey that I am divorced, that is why I am unhappy. Do you see that? That is what the ignorance is. Or I am married, that is why I am unhappy. Both the ways it works. Both ways it works. Tell me how many people are married and are happy, and how many people are divorced, they are unhappy. Do the survey. Are you getting it? That is the beauty of this journey. So what we see, the believing the rope to be a snake in dim light. Dim light is ignorance. And then what I see, I objectify. Mind says you are in stress, you are crazy. Mind says, and then I become crazy. Fact is that I cannot become crazy. Do you see that? I cannot become crazy. No question. In this room is light full of smoke. Does the light become the smoke? It appears. It appears it has become the smoke, but the light cannot become the smoke. They both are two different entities. Stress and I am are two different entities. But when I recognize I am consciousness, stress flees. Stress is ignorance. You have to live into that state of awareness. You cannot live into that state of awareness if you don't qualify. You are not a qualified seeker. Seeing a wave as a separate from the ocean is a craziness. Did you examine what the wave is made up of? There is no separation. There are many ways to understand. There are millions and millions of examples in the metaphor that will help us. So remind me that objects have no innate sentience or consciousness. Object does not possess the consciousness, but to recognize the object, consciousness has to pervade everywhere. Then only I can recognize here is my left hand, here is Stephen, here, then only. But the pervading consciousness, pervading light does not mean this hand is light. What it means? It simply means whatever the mind says, don't believe it. Not my mind, your mind. Your mind says I am crazy, don't believe it. And then start inquiry. You have to believe me. You have to believe the teacher. But believe pending inquiry. If you don't believe the teacher, then you believe your mind, and your mind lives in ignorance. He asked me if the object is aware of itself. Again, I'm going back to the object in the subject, knower in the known. So first, how I explain? Consciousness pervades in each and every cell. There is no space left in my left hand. That is how I recognize through the mind that it is my left hand in the presence of the consciousness. The way in the presence of the light, now I see my left hand. What a journey of this East and Western. Ask me if the object is aware of itself or knows I am. Here is my left hand. Does the left hand says, I know you, crazy guy, you're talking. I know the left hand. I, consciousness. Now the same which you say that this is also conscious. I see conscious left hand. Does the left hand say that I also know you? No, that is why it is object. So I objectify. I objectify myself with, no, I'm stressed, I'm married, I'm unhappy, etc. Nothing exists. Nothing exists. How dare you say that you are suffering? My master used to say, how dare you say that you are suffering? You are the son of that permanent peace and happiness, love and bliss. Your intrinsic nature is peace and happiness. Do you understand what do you mean by intrinsic nature? You cannot separate that very nature from that subject or object. I am, my intrinsic nature is peace and happiness. It cannot be separated. It can be overlapped, overshadowed. That overlapping, overshadowing is the ignorance. So lack of self-knowing will reveal. Lack of self-knowing will reveal I am the object. I am the stress, I'm suffering, and I have this problem. So you get obsessed that you are unmarried or you are single. No, that's what I told you about this lady. The one lady was attending my session. Recently I divorced, so I am having a lot of grief. How can you have to undertake a long journey. You have to become a seeker, and then ultimately then you have come to the point. So can you give a talk on the grief? I said, yes, I can give a talk on any subject. So she was thinking that I will support the grief. In the end, she told me, it doesn't align with my mental understanding of the grief. I'm grieving. So I will continue to grieve. Thank you. That is what we people do in our life. So, go back. Knower and then know. Known is always changing. Knower is unchanging. That is another point of discernment. You live into that state of discernment. You will recognize that you are the consciousness, you are the light. You will never recognize that you are the body, even if you have a pain. You have a pain, so you say, oh, mind. Who recognizes mind? Mind, find out what is the solution with the pain. But I'm still different from the pain in the body. Internally, you recognize. If the light happens to be a consciousness, light recognizes I'm independent. Change is happening in the object, what is present in the presence of the light. Change is happening in the body, mind, intellect, ego, thought, feeling, emotion, status, gender, etc., which is totally separate from the consciousness. Can you become aware? Can you look at this I prior to identification with an object? That is known as the objectless state of the mind. And I try to control my mind. Did you understand that? Let me explain it. Knower in the known, I told you. Knower is independent. Knower is pure consciousness. So if I am looking at I'm just using to make you understand. I is looking at the I prior to identification with any object is objectless state of the mind. But you are speaking, then what? So most of the time I see that there is an objectless state of the mind, and mind is empty. No, but you are speaking. Yes, I'm speaking. You recognize this body and mind is speaking. But I'm consciousness, which doesn't speak. It is here and now. It is happening simultaneously. It is happening simultaneously. Suggests that it prior to the identification, I look at you, but I don't give you any name in the form. I simply look. It's a version perception. We both are into that consciousness. I don't recognize this body, mind, intellect. I don't recognize your body and the mind. I don't recognize the name and the form here. I told you, I am looking at the I prior to the identification. First here, then there. I see the pure consciousness alone exist. Nothing exists. That is the journey. A firm abidance. Firm abidance should be there. What is that firm abidance? That I am consciousness. Not by blind belief, but by analysis, but by understanding, but by discernment. You recognize that you live constantly in that objectless state. All the time. That is called the awakening. You plan to awaken as if you plan to wake up after 5 hours. That is a craziness. It doesn't work that way. Oh, people have different, they create, from one right notion, they created hundreds of wrong notions. I should remind myself of the knower in the known. A table can't perceive itself or anything else. A cloud is not self-aware in any way. I am self-aware. The moment your mind claims, I know this, immediately ask if the object is aware of itself. Object cannot be aware. Whatever we experience, know through the mind are the objects. Does a tree know I am a tree? Is the mountain recognizes mountain has a cognitive ability of being a mountain? Inquire if the object persists in deep sleep. Thoughts are absent when we sleep deeply. Sights vanish when the eyes are shut in deep. Object, but I still exist. That I is consciousness. Are you, Stephen? We have not done the practice. Practice sometimes is not required also. You live into that state. How are you, Terry?
I'm just so happy because I was so confused by that other lecture with the knowing and the known.
Yeah,
And then I went, and now today I see that there's such, when you get it, there's such joy in it.
yeah,
I just feel like laughing.
yeah.
You know? And then I see that you're laughing. I see the background is laughing. And everyone in Christina is laughing. And it's just wonderful.
Yeah,
That's all.
this is what the
Yes.
true meditation is. Teacher,
But I never even closed my eyes.
yes, you need not to close your eyes in meditation.
Okay.
That is the higher and the highest level of journey.
I was just great.
You're afraid?
It was great.
It was great. I said you are scared. Scared is an object.
No, that's not true. I was before. Yeah, not anymore.
Very good sharing. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good, thank you. It's great. I mean, the lesson is so clear. There's a lot in there. So in moments, I was like, my mind was just going and going and going. I said, well, you know what? We got to simplify this down. So this is going to require multiple listenings and might be hard to articulate in this, but I recognize the importance of discernment and dispassion, and looking at things, and being able to understand and separate that there's only one subject. Everything else is all objects. And then going back to some of the lessons that we've learned is using the discernment, dispassion to negate the objects that will just leave us with the one subject, which is pure consciousness.
Yes, it's a wonderful summary. That is how in ancient days, when the person becomes a qualified seeker, they used to live in a monastery, and the master teaches from the Upanishad. Here is the teaching. Now you talk. And they used to summarize. That is the exact meaning of the group of the text which is known as Upanishad. Upanishad means sitting, the seeker sitting near a teacher and learning. The literal meaning of Upanishads. We have more than 300 Upanishads. So I have yet to talk about those Upanishads. I'm just giving a flash of it. How are you, Christina?
Thank you. I'm inviting myself today. I'm laughing, I'm crying. So many ahas are happening. And
Yeah.
another layer for me as a parent, when I'm feeling upset, I've then over-identified
Yes.
my kids.
Yeah.
And this huge aha really has arisen.
Yeah. Yeah. Let them live independently. They are my kids, The moment any kid is born, separated from the moment I came out of the womb of the mother, I'm independent and separate from my mom. Yes, at a personal, social, family level, everything we will continue at the professional, but not getting identified. Why? I'm consciousness. Consciousness is independent. That's a part of the learning. Are you, Dennis?
Thank you. So today's what I get from today's talk is it brings me to the conclusion that this Dennis as a body-mind complex cannot become weakened.
Yeah. Because
it cannot become weakened.
Yeah.
That this Dennis will continue remaining in ignorance.
Yes.
Only when I'm only when I drop this identification with the Dennis as the name and the form, then the awakening happens. So I need to separate the consciousness from the Dennis.
That's beautiful. Another way to summarize it. That's a beautiful way of reflection. And to disidentify or to separate or to discern, whatever the word you can use, or to detach. You cannot do by practice. You can do by understanding. How are you, Sam? Sir. Sam says sir to me, so I also say sir to him. What's the problem?
No, it's interesting. The lesson and the constant reminder that I need to have about the separation. So my body, I think, has been going through something over the last couple of weeks, and finally everything, getting back, making sure that the practice is being done every day, but living mindfully beyond the practice, took everything and helped my body release whatever toxins, whatever frustrations, whatever was in there. And it's crazy. I've lost a number of pounds in a few days, but that's not the point. It's whatever infection or anxiety or feel was in there.
Find out some doctor, some expert who can remove all the toxins from your body once and forever. And that is not possible. Body continue to produce the toxins. So where is their problem? Problem is the identification with the body.
Yeah.
Taking care of the body is one thing, and remain identified. Do you think that this body will remain as a sweet 16? Now this has a gray beard. This is not the toxins. The destructive process has started in this body. Anything that is an object will continue to change. So I should not be attached to that. Are you, Vaibhav?
Thank you, sir. Sir, while listening to you, it was a self-check that everything that I'm doing, where I'm attached, I can able to recognize it. And the moment I recognize it, it goes away. So it was simply like that, understanding this thing that every scenario that you talk, it's very realistic to me. And then whenever I see that now I'm attached over here, I drop that and it goes away.
You're right, that recognition, that cognitive ability via discernment is required. And the moment I recognize anything and everything as an object, including you all suggest is the name in the form of the body, is not at all me. That very recognition helps me to drop the ignorance. And then what happens? Still, you have a knee pain, go to the doctor. But don't identify that you are the knee. Take care of this knee, crazy knee. And that results into awakening. That is all for today, my friends. And we will meet again. Thank you. Lose couple of more pounds also.